Hello, my name is Christy Schermacher, and I'm here to present on my website, Folktales and How to Find Them. I wanted to talk about folktales because I feel like there's a lot of ambiguity with folktales and the categories they all fall into, so I chose four here to talk about. My homepage actually is just a quick glimpse of the cultural or the historical aspects of folktales and how they were used as cautionary tales for children. They were there to entertain and then explain the how and the why of nature around us. I also mentioned a little bit how in the 1800s they started to become published, so not oral storytelling anymore, but actually written down, and have transformed themselves into the colorfully illustrated books that we have today. And specifically, I talk about that we're going to look with this website about cumulative tales, fairy tales, porquet tales, and trickster tales. My first tab here is cumulative tales, and I give a quick little description of what they are, how they're sometimes referred to as chain tales, but they're a storyline that builds upon a series of events. And I offered a couple of examples. The first two, Henny Penny or Chicken Little, is how it's kind of known today, and then the Gingerbread Man are more well known, and on each of these, there's links to Amazon to purchase those. And then I've included also links to some other online resources for activities that you can do with those books. Down here, I've got The Cat and the Mouse, and this is maybe a bit more traditional. It's not one that I was actually able to find in print. So I was able to find a resource that has these online. So if you're on my website and want to know what on earth the story is, you can click on it and see the cumulative folktale and how it builds upon itself. And then I also included down here Me and Annie McPhee, which is a modern take on cumulative folktales, as well as a resource with a huge amount of rhyming activities that you can do with children. My next page here is fairy tales. And since we know a lot about fairy tales, or we kind of know what they are already, they're pretty popular within our culture, such as Beauty and the Beast, Hansel and Gretel, that sort of thing. Just a really quick description how you might find witches and giants and fairy godmothers. But I wanted to offer a couple of resources for teachers, librarians, parents that they could use if they needed to for teaching fairy tales. The Anthology of Traditional Literature here has a huge amount of resources, of great explanations as to what each one is, as well as some stories that are not going to be maybe made into picture books today. So they're a little bit more traditional, and you can use them right there, maybe compare and contrast with the stories that we do know so well. There's an amazing resource for using folktales by Eric K. Taylor, and I've included just a couple of his activities here. All of these are literacy based, and so they really focus on listening and reading and writing. There's some language games, there's developing text structure awareness, and then also some other aspects of literacy. These are just the two that I included. The picture sorting activity can be a really quick activity with little ones. If you photocopy the illustrations out of the book, make little cards, and then give the kiddo the deck of cards, and they actually have to sort through for sequential order. And then the jigsaw story reconstruction is a very similar concept, but you're in groups and you break the story into different sections per group. You retell within your group and talk about it, and then you pull one person from each group to make a new group. And then after everybody retells their portion of the story, you have to figure out which comes first, second, third, and finally the last piece. Jigsawing's a lot of fun. It can get kids really talking and engaged with the actual story. Next up, we have the porquet tales, and a little bit of description. These are the why. They explain the how and the why of how things are in our world. Why do leopards have spots? Why are there stars in the sky? Why does the sun come out and the moon go away? That sort of thing. The resources I've included here, there's a reader's theater for how and why stories, a terrific collection of scripts, and I think this would really adapt well onto any science unit. You could actually, with the stars and the moon in the sky, you could pull that into an astronomy unit and add a little bit of depth in your literature. The second resource there has a lot of writing resources for graphic organizers, sentence starters, And they can, a lot of the things that they include can be differentiated to really hit any age level. And then the storytelling piece over here, I stumbled across this from the Mensa Education Research Foundation, and it is 5 lessons. There's extensions on it as well, but how to become a storyteller. And so it's targeted for 2nd grade, but it's, again, really could be easily adapted for any age level, any grade level. And finally, we have the Trickster Tales. A little quote there from Brer Rabbit, who was one of my favorites. My mom used to read these stories to us when I was little, and they were always really fun because you just really didn't know what was going to happen, what this little trickster was going to get himself into. I think kids really enjoy that. I included picture covers of books, and I guess I should mention that every picture on my website, it links to Amazon or some other resource. And the activity I shared here was story knifing, where as far back as the Inuit, so from the earliest peoples of America, they would use, within their oral storytelling, they would use the mud or the snow and a knife to actually illustrate in the mud as they were telling the story out loud. And today you could adapt that as like a sidewalk chalk activity. If you have a sandbox and you're at home with your kids and you want to just go out and use a stick, that's super easy. And if you're modeling in the classroom, then you can use a whiteboard and a dry erase marker. The activity that they included in this book, The Treasury of Trickster Tales, was actually giving kiddos some tracing paper and a pencil and have them trace the illustrations in the book and then tell the story as they go. So they end up walking home with a nice storyboard, but it gives them practice if this is something that they're interested in. And eventually you take the tracing paper away and replace it with sand or snow or what have you. I also included here a great little article about telling stories on the ground, and it talks about a native people from southwestern Alaska. It gives a little bit of history and kind of how this practice has fallen off in modern day times, and might be an excellent way for, if you're teaching this type of an activity, to have a little bit of historical background so that you can educate people on this. And that is my website, just because it's fun and I finally figured out how to do it. Down here at the bottom, I was able to figure out how to have all these pictures. They're kind of my fairy tale, trickster tale, folk tale collection of illustrations I think get you in that frame of mind. So hopefully you've enjoyed my website and maybe even gotten a few resources from it. And until next time, thanks.